Google had a website where it explained sort of how it worked and what it was doing. And it used to say content by people for people. And now they changed it a few months ago to something like content for people, not content by people anymore, because they know AI is proliferating. Yeah. But it was interesting because they have figured out a way, like, I guess it's easy for them to penalize companies that are doing content with AI.
You're about to hear a conversation between two agency owners who collectively have over 30 years of experience helping brands sell millions of dollars. Enjoy the episode.
We are launching two new clients. One of them is an app.
Cool.
Which I didn't know this, but well, since I haven't sold an app in a long time, the best thing that you do is you have to go through this like process. You launch an app, you have to go through a huge process to go into Google Play, even a longer process to go into iOS.
Yeah.
But now with like Meta, you also have to have like a whole like month with them with like, trying to get your IP and all that stuff, so that just a simple advertisement of like, hey, download your app now. You can actually press the button and it directly goes to the app. It's a whole little thing, but everything is going well in our world. It is very interesting, especially for people who are planning. If we have anybody who's listening and having to do planning for like to launch an app, it's not just having the app out there, but now you also have to go through this whole month of just pretty much sending all this information to Meta, so that you finally have the app up. And if you wanted to promote it in like social media, you have to also go through this due diligence again.
I wonder how they're reviewing that. Do you think it's just people, or they have AIs doing that?
I don't know. I think the way that we found out was because we were talking to our beta rep, and then I'm like, okay, so we're gonna pretty much the first month is gonna be find out about the app. Let's just give general knowledge about the app and why should you use it, and then take people to a landing page. That's great. And then but I'm like, but I wouldn't mind if I had an advertisement that said, pretty much pay per click. See it, click on it, download.
Yeah.
And he told me this whole process, and I'm like, well, so I asked the same question. So is this going to be like in a matter of review? Yeah, they'll put it in a queue. Somebody will contact you guys, will give you the information. You're going to get it to your developers to get an API. So they have, they're definitely still doing this as a manual process, I think. And I guess they have to, but they do not have the amount of people.
Yeah, required.
Same as Google. Now, if you have a request on Google, and hey, I love you, Google. Please, we love you. Sponsor us.
Just in case they shut down my email and my server.
We love you, Google. No, anything that you're making with Google, it's taking forever. And then I'm getting a lot of I don't remember the word. Es como asegurarse de que los reviews y todo eso estén limpios, como que reputational management, they call it.
Yeah.
So we at the beginning we started that 4 years ago. 4 years ago we started doing that, and then we just saw that it was very hard to do reputational management because you should always respond to some. It all depends on pretty much the industry and all stuff, but like responding to reviews is a little bit hard. Then a lot of people are using reviews to retaliate. The algorithm now, it's not taking that much of the whole review thing into consideration as it was about 4 years ago. But pretty much what you tell them, hey, you know what, I have a review of somebody who's just upset at me, and rather than them like kind of reviewing it, they put it into the review process, and they haven't gotten back to me forever. So now I'm just telling clients that you have to drown it. You gotta have to find yourself. Those clients will really enjoy your job and say, hey, you know what, sorry, I'm glad that you liked what we did, and I know that I haven't talked to you in a few months ago, but right now I would really like a review from you to do this, which is in itself kind of an annoying task. But
yeah, what a hassle. Yeah, I think that reminds me, man. I was reading this week, and so Google basically had like I don't want to call it terms and conditions, but it had a website where it explained sort of how it worked and what it was doing. And it used to say content by people for people and something like that, right? Something akin to that. And now they changed it a few months ago to something like content for people, not content by people anymore, because they know AI is sort of, proliferating. Yeah. And, but it was interesting because they have figured out a way, like, I guess it's easy for them, but, to penalize companies that don't have, like, that are doing content with AI. So you can do content with AI. I don't think the AI is the problem. I think it's just, as we've talked about before on the show, it's marketers ruin sort of everything, right? And so there's already people that are like, I'm going to do 100 articles a day. And even if they're the same thing and they sort of talk about the same thing, I'm just going to post them. And it's these websites full of ads, full of content that sort of looks the same too. So you'll be reading an article and then the next article is for the same thing in different words. And it's basically spam.
Yeah, it's like, you're interested in losing weight. Well, you know what? This product will be great.
Yeah.
Second article, this product will be great if you're interested in losing weight.
Right.
You know that if you're losing weight, this would be a good ad. Yeah, and all this is just grab the AI, refresh, copy paste.
Yeah. No, and there's already these like softwares that do this for you, programmatic SEO kind of thing, etc. And I think there is room for that. Like I do think it works if you do it properly. And I have seen examples online of people like, I've done, AI content for the last, 3 months, and this is my new, these are my new metrics, and the numbers tend to go up. But of course, Google doesn't want like spammy, cheap websites that people can land on and then don't find the right information. And so they are taking measures with that. So it's just a word of caution, right? So the people that want to do content with AI and they want to do it at scale, they want to use these softwares to produce, 10, 20 pieces of content a day or something. I think it works, but before you do all that, you need to be clear on what each content is going to talk about and what are the different angles you're approaching it with. So it's not just the same content over and over again with different words. I think that's one of the things that Google sort of caught on and is fixing. But I do feel the web is more and more full of like AI content, right? From bots on Twitter responding, and they respond. They're so politically correct, it's a bot. Like you'll say something, and they'll be like, "That's a good point," and then they'll just repeat what you just said. And a lot of people are like, "This is a bot," and they eliminate the account from being able to follow them. So I've seen a lot of that, and I've seen a lot of content on websites as well. You read it, and it doesn't really say anything. It's like it wants to say something, but it doesn't really drive the point home. It doesn't really know what it's talking about.
It's all fluff.
Yeah, it's like all the fluff.
We have a marketing agency that really helps your branding, because branding is the true primordial thing that brands do.
Yeah.
You're starting the whole thing.
And it's like, yeah,
a lot of of a textbook, of a college textbook.
Yeah. It's like a 101 version. Yeah. And I think I do think that's going to get better though. I think eventually, very soon, actually, I think it's just going to be like, I'm not sure if this is AI or not. And I think one of the ways to do that is, I think one of the best ways to sort of use AI to people's advantage is to do something like this where you're recording and you're having ideas and thoughts and things you've thought about and expressing them, and then using this recording to feed the AI the information that you wanted to say, and then have it write the article or the whatever it is you want. And then that way it has more nuance. It's got your thoughts. It's got some of your ideas, and then it's not like the typical, the typical post.
You're saying, have humans really cook the beans, and then use the AI to make the refried beans or all other portions.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't. What I am most concerned about is, let's say we do it. In a way we kind of are, but create the content, you have them do the refried beans, but then the honest thing that the AI also does is that you can just say, okay, AI, now I need you to grab this content and pretty much, expose it as to many people as possible. Put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook, put it anywhere that you possibly can, and the machine just does that. So then automatically that's the problem where I don't know if the AI it's doing you a good. I know it's a conversation. If it's doing a good job for you, because if they're doing that prolification of your content. If the AI is doing the prolification of your content, maybe they're not looking into the audiences correctly. Maybe they don't. Maybe you're just following a task, but it's doing it correctly. And I think that could be hurtful for your brand. You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. It was just putting it everywhere. Yeah, like spam. Yeah, I think it's the human still needs to be in the loop. It's just that simple, at least for now. I'm sure there will be systems, or there are already systems where the human doesn't have to be there. But I think for most generative AI, where you're actually producing things, the human needs to be there, man, because otherwise, like, it'll do like the most basic stuff, or it'll get confused and say something it's not supposed to say, and it won't make sense, and this paragraph won't connect to the one below it. So there's always like the human has to check, like, okay, this isn't really what Romulo and Isaac wanted to say. Like, they're not really talking about this. You took it in another direction. Let's fix that.
well, that was the fear of it doing it's thinking for you in a way. But no, the other one that I was telling you specifically, it's I think that you have to have the person cooking the beans, and then also, you can actually get derivatives, but you also have to have in the point of prolification of your content, like making sure that your content is going to the right piece. That piece also needs to be humanized too, because again, the last thing that we want to do is have this conversation to about marketing and the new things that are happening in marketing, and also goes up in engineering platform for 3D printing. It's like, okay, so why do you feed me this? I mean, then we look bad because we're not really targeting them, and they're gonna be like, well, this is spam annoying blog, and
Yeah. I was actually looking at a talk, recently, and they describe AI sort of like electricity at the time, and part of the argument was AI will probably have as much of an impact as electricity had at its point. And what's tricky is with electricity, all of our world is sort of powered by electricity. But when it first was put together and sort of discovered and everything, and we actually got it to work, I think part of the struggle for people was like, well, okay, so beyond just like having a light bulb in my house so I can read at night, like, what else are we going to do with this, kind of thing, or the street lamps or something. And it was very difficult to see how that was going to power, all of modern society, basically. For every factories, everything, right?
Electric chairs.
Right.
They were like, okay, so what else can we do and say that it was a humane way to
Yeah. To extract value. Anyway, so the argument is like AI is sort of the same, and it's going to be so broad and so imbued in everything we do that it's sort of hard right now to describe how it's going to touch everything. But I do think that that's where it's going. I really, really think so. I think this session here will have an AI in the background taking notes, fixing the resolution of the image, doing a bunch of things, sort of already figuring out what social media posts can be extracted from this, what articles. Maybe it's already telling us what other points we can talk about, giving us questions, maybe finding resources, already putting everything together. Like, I just think that's maybe 2 or 3 years away from now.
I think we're bringing back the whole concept of finding out electricity, and then finding these little things out and say, well, you have a kid, you have my son or whatever, then there's electricity, and electricity is pretty much part of their everyday life. I don't think a lot of people. Yes, ChatGPT did happen. ChatGPT does exist. People are like, oh my God, I can actually write an email now. They're great. We have that, and that's pretty much men confronting AI like one-to-one, and let me kind of interact with it. But we have been using AI, and the whole thing about the whole camera thing for like social media. You take a photo, you go to you take a photo. There's like a portrait mode, and there's other ways that there's an AI in your phone that pretty much makes it a little bit more shade. Take out some shade here and blemish here, take more light. And this is not before like, oh, it's a filter that you're creating, and no, like digitally, the camera knows what is the best way to take a picture for you, or what would be the best picture for you, and then then you're already using that AI to pretty much do that. So I think a lot of people just didn't. It's kind of like oh my god, it is already so intertwined in our life
Yeah.
that it's gonna get now that people have by now like the whole it's gonna get bigger. But I don't know. You know what? As you just mentioned with like the Twitter, I have also stepped out of of X as a platform because I'm also finding out more and more that the people who I did follow for a comedy relief or for like an interesting article and all stuff, you can tell that it is now being produced by somebody who just said, hey, you know what? Don't spend so much time on creating this good content. The AI can help you do some of that work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have talked about this. It's kind of like even if you decide to, hey, you know what, we had a platform that it's only humans and there's no AI, you can actually probably start having that type of AI discrimination.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think our children are just gonna grow up with like, yeah, just ask the AI. Like, why would I do anything else? Like why would I not, take advantage of this whole thing?
But
Kind of
then
like you did with everything else, right?
I don't know if I brought this up like last conversation, but there was we were watching like a morning show here, and the whole question of like, what did you used to like back in the day? And this is funny because he dates us, but it's like back in the day, what did you do when you didn't know something? And it's like, well, you just an example. What's the capital of you know Albania? You're like, let me ask somebody. You know the capital of Albania? No, I don't know. Okay, well that ends the conversation for today. I'm gonna go to bed, and then if I run into it, cool. Yeah, you just go to sleep without not knowing it, and it was okay. Now it's like, no, you need information, you can get it like that, and it's really silly because it's like, yeah, my kids, it's like, hey, let me show you something very interesting. It's like, well, puppy, everybody already know about that because I
Yeah.
have all
Yeah.
this knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I was thinking that I was showing my in-laws sort of what ChatGPT is capable of if you pay the $20 a month, like if you pay for the premium version. I don't know if you know this, but it's quite amazing. Like it's definitely worth it for business, right? So, for example, I can load an Excel file and have it analyze it. We talked about that before, but analyze it like a human would, right? Like it's a data analyst on a team, basically. It's not super like it won't understand all the context. You have to sort of battle with it a little bit, but it does the work of a human that maybe, if you have to analyze 30,000 rows of an Excel file, like it might take you a few days, right? This can do it in, 10
You
minutes.
also had to, and these humans are putting the input into that data too.
Right. And they're in biases and everything. Well, the system also has biases, but let's just say like it's analyzing vast amount of information. If you have, a huge Excel file with a lot of data, you can process that. You can extract insights and put things together and add columns and whatever it is, and spit back an Excel file, right? Like here's the CSV you can download. So that's one thing. Now it can read pictures, like it interprets pictures. So I can take a picture of a salad and say, give me the recipe to make this. Or I can take a picture of a car engine and tell it, look, I want to know where the air filter is, or how do I change the gas, the oil in this, etc.
So you can actually take a picture of a random piece of machinery and say, what is this? And the thing will tell you.
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I've seen people take pictures of like a diagram, and then say, for example, give me the code so that I can build this diagram on a website, and it gives it the code, so it can just copy and paste it onto the application, and then it shows up. Or you could take a picture of, like, I saw a guy take a picture of a bicycle and say, I'm trying to put this bicycle together, I'm in trouble, and then it started by saying, okay, you need to move the hatch on this part of the bicycle, and the guy takes another picture with the hatch in his hand and says, is it this one? And then the AI says, no, it's not that one, it's the one next to it on your left.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So it sort of guides you through it, because it has image recognition, right? So I took a picture of my son dressed as Captain America, and I was just testing it. I was like, what character is this? And it says the boy is dressed as Captain America. Right. The boy is dressed as Captain America. And then I was like, who's Captain America? And then it went into like it's a Marvel thing, blah, So that's one thing. And then the other thing I thought was really cool is you can also talk to it now. Remember the movie Her? Oh, you haven't seen that movie, right? You have to see it.
No, I have to. I have
You
to
haven't
get
seen
it.
it, but, so you talk to it, and you can ask it whatever you want. And so with this whole Israel Palestine thing, I'm sure people are saying like, okay, explain the conflict, what's going on there. I asked it to explain why Latin American countries were so different from Nordic countries. You know, why is it Finland and Denmark, and why are these people doing so well, and why is Latin America struggling? So it gave me a bunch of reasons. And then we had this whole conversation. I'm talking to the AI, and it asks me questions, and I ask it questions, and it's a conversation.
You're saying, sorry, but when you say talking to the AI, it's like right now you and I are talking through a camera and a microphone. So you're telling like, hi AI, let's have a conversation, and you talk, and the thing it spits out content on the right side, right? Is that the way
Yeah.
that we
So I open ChatGPT.
It's not typing. There's no.
No. I open my phone, I tap on it, and then I say, I was thinking about this. What do you think? What's the research say? Like, why are these countries different? What's going on there culturally? What happened, etc. And it started telling me, look, there was cultural differences, education, political differences, and I was like, okay, but tell me why. And then I kept digging and kept answering based on the information it has, right? Like, but I know the information is sort of what the research is out there. And then we had a conversation about that, and it keeps asking me questions. We go back and forth. I think it's going to get better. What everybody says is this is the worst it's going to be, and it's already amazing. So imagine what it's going to be like.
Well, how does let's talk about the bias to it, because right now I'm very interested. I mean, history is done by the victor, and right now there's this huge thing about, let's not get too much into politics, but let's bring this one up. Like here in Florida, there's this debates about changing African American studies, and so here it becomes a game of like, well, so where does the academia or the authority that ChatGPT does have, the $20 version, that pretty much like kind of validates that this is done on facts, or this is going with it. Because the last thing that I want is also like, oh yeah, well, you know what, from now on, I have all the money in the world, and it's was who's the king of the Maldives? Romo Martinez is the king of the Maldives, and I just kind of like bombard the internet with that content.
Yeah, I don't know. I think. Well,
I know there's no king.
Well, it's not an easy answer. Yeah, it's not an easy answer. But I think so. So there are things I do research on that I know I want, like the source. So I'll go to something called Perplexity AI. That's on my phone too. And it's right next to ChatGPT, and I just click on it and I type in, I don't know, my toddler will brush his teeth or whatever, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Then it gives me the information. And then because it's sometimes it's more medical or something where I need to be more careful, it also gives you the sources. So I can check the source and I can say, oh, okay, well, this information is coming from, I don't know, from the Pediatrics Association of,
So it's like, it has that.
Or is this a blogger? It's just like some mom who's decided to blog. And
I'm thinking more of like the plot with Wikipedia, so to say that people are putting.
Yeah. So I think it's the same thing with Google, right? Like if I were to say I'm the king of the Maldives and I, created content around that and I just bombarded the internet with that, if you typed it up, it might show up on Google, right? But hopefully there are other sources like Wikipedia and others that, where you can't put that information on because it's being checked by a bunch of humans. So in that sense, like I feel pretty comfortable. I'll just use Perplexity. I'll type it in. It's like Googling, but instead of going through 10 different websites and figuring out what each one says and then saying, okay, this doesn't match, I just ask it and it tells me, a brief summary of the 10 websites and what the answer is. And it gives me other questions I can ask it. And then, so I've stopped Google. We've talked about this, but I've stopped Googling quite a bit.
So I stopped Googling myself. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to.
And I stopped Googling quite a bit in general. I mean, sometimes I need it because sometimes I do need to see like the different results and I want to check maybe it's a website or something.
Or images out.
Yeah.
But I think that for your deep research, what about back to the conversations and interactions that you have with the new ChatGPT? What about if the question would have been, who is right with respect to the Palestine-Israel conflict?
Oh, it won't tell you.
You just said can't comprehend, can't compute. So
No, it'll
I guess just this, or he doesn't even go ahead.
yeah. I would say it's like the most politically correct human you've ever encountered. And the bot will say, there are many ways to consider the conflict and nobody's right. And there are probably, correct arguments on both sides. So it's very hard to determine blah, 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 blah. Like it won't. I'm guessing. I haven't asked it this, but I've asked it more difficult questions that aren't Israel Palestine. And it's giving me that answer. It's like, oh, okay. It's very vanilla, very kosher.
Yeah, like let's not get into.
I'm not going to take a radical stand on this.
And this is all right now pretty much the people who are deciding this. It's Microsoft's team in a way, or Roguelike.
Well, it's OpenAI. It's really OpenAI who's behind this, and
who's owned by Microsoft?
Part of it, not the whole thing. Yeah, and it's like a different company. But yeah, let's say Microsoft owns the stake.
I hope we don't see like uploading Windows 95.
Yeah, I think it's very, very difficult, but I think actually they're doing a good job, and I would argue that everybody's scared. Oh my God, it's going to give you the wrong information and blah blah blah. But Google could do that too, and we use Google every day, and nobody's freaking out because Google has a Nazi page on its thing, and I guess it's different because AI will give you like a definitive answer.
Well,
you may take it literally.
I think the biggest concern became. So I have a search engine. In the search engine, Google would find what was the most at that time the most relevant search that most people have really gone into, they like, and then they became popular. So if you want to be the king of the Maldives example, if my content is there, people kind of pretty much kept going to it, and I became the king of the Maldives. Although it couldn't happen, that could happen for sure. But it was more of like it was a search engine. It was like there's content out there, people need to find it. Let's speed it up. Let's give it to them. Let's see what the internet says. And then due to people really engaging with their content, we're going to value this content as the correct one. Then Wikipedia came out and it was like, look, we're going to start writing this thing up, but, please do check, do your due diligence, verify, don't take Wikipedia as like everything by the hand because, this is people putting information in. And you're hoping that the people want the best of, we're all here together in this earth. As a community, we all want the betterment for. Okay. Then we have the monster which became Meta, with the Facebook issue, Cambridge Analytica, all that scheme when it was just like, well, what about we can manipulate people? We can manipulate people by giving them false stories or twisting things in and out, making people believe X rather than Y, and then we can actually justify X, the earth is flat, let's say that.
Yeah.
Flat earthers. And then you can actually become more and more of that. But there has to be some sort of like, I don't know, I'm just thinking that like, maybe too many power superhero movies, but like a Hall of Justice, or something like that. Where there's some people that say, look, there has to be, if we're going to make ChatGPT be a thing or whatever, there has to be some sort of like responsible party that pretty much makes sure that things stay as we said, like maybe we don't want the AI to answer, the reason why Palestinians and Israelis go, the one that has a better higher moral ground and spits it out, because again, this is a personal thing that people need to take into consideration. I like the vanilla answer. I think that's, as you said before, this is, we're not, ChatGPT should not be answering this question for you. But you're saying that as of right now, you feel very comfortable in saying that, the machine is very accurately giving you the information that you really need up to that point where you're like, okay, well.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, if I need to do something and I do like, I have to ask a question that is like, if I have to ask a question that's super delicate, then I'll use Perplexity because I get the sources and I can check. If it's something, where like it's not life or death, or it's I just want an answer, I'll just ask ChatGPT, right? So, how do you say this word in French? I don't need the source. Like I know it's gonna be correct, right? I don't know. I don't see it like. I think Google came out and nobody was asking like, oh my God, is this ethically, morally correct, and am I getting the right information? And like we were all just thrilled that the information was being organized, and there was this new thing called the internet, and we were all navigating, and Google was just easier. I know now we're more advanced, we have no more nuance, and we understand like the effect of fake news and misinformation and all that. I think it's wonderful that we all have these concerns. Um, I haven't found that yet. Like I haven't found like I'm,
No,
I'm not
but,
I'm not too concerned like that I'm getting the wrong information because I feel like it's as if I Googled it. It's just I'm using a machine that's interfacing between me and Google, and it's extracting the information and giving
you know
it
that
in summarized way.
I don't know. I used to, the other conversation that I was going to have with you was a generational conversation. That was kind of like, so Romulo, what do you have for your homework? Then? So I'll do generational, like how I sell to a Gen Z, rather than emailing a baby before. Right now,
Yeah.
right now we are, you're younger than me, so we are millennials. We're the older spectrum of the millennials, but we are very Gen Y, like we're very connected to the Gen Y boomers, in a way. Right now, Gen Z and the new generations, we are, kind of like, okay, well, we're coping with it, but we're understanding what's going on. But I guess I'm positioning myself on this, and that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about. Like, how do you position yourself for this? Now, bringing it back to what I'm trying to get is to, well, when I saw Google, Google gave me options, and I had to do my own research and see these options, and then say, okay, due to my critical understanding or my capacity as a human, I believe that a little bit of A with a little bit of, it's kind of like making a recipe. I'll take a little bit of A, a little bit of B, a little bit of C, and we'll do the Romulo chicken masala,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like the way that I think of Google, but you still have to use some of that gray matter. What I'm concerned is that it comes down to the education portion of this, I think, because it's like I had to go to college and then I had to find resources in a library and then say, this is Freeman. This marketing portion is brought to you by Freeman and Freeman. This is very important article that talks about this, this. And pretty much you worked around going to the library and getting this. You can probably find a lot of that content on the internet. And then there was a whole, you had to is it an .org, is it a .edu?
Yeah.
And you have these sources that you had to follow. Okay, let's say that was the way that we did that research. But what I was saying now is that you can actually write and they are projects that you can just spit out to ChatGPT. And it was just like, how do I sell a ketchup? How can I get a ketchup to be as more popular than Heinz? Give me 5 ideas. And ChatGPT will spit that out. So you did have the homework is already completely done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only going back to, and when education become more of a question of that, why of between Palestine, like the question again with that.
Yeah.
Palestine, Israel. What are your thoughts? And pretty much explain what you have thought. This, and this. Is that what is going to
Yeah.
happen?
I think so. I am.
I think I'm concerned about critical thinking and
Yeah. Well, I think that's what education has to be. Is how do we teach people to be critical thinkers and analyze what's being said, whether or not it makes sense in that context, and then reviewing the sources and saying, okay, well, this appears to be this website. Let me check who owns this. Like, sort of going deeper into the information and what's being said. I think critical thinking is one of the most important things you can teach someone. I've had people that work with us, and if they don't have that critical thinking skill, they can't move forward. Like, it's that simple, because they just, everything that is being said is, okay, that's the truth. That's what it is. It's accurate. And then they have a hard time sort of extrapolating ideas and understanding the bigger picture. And what do we do after that? Like, they need an instruction of what to do next, versus someone has critical thinking, understands what he's doing and then, or she's doing, and then says, okay, the next logical step would be this. I don't know. I think it's going to be critical thinking.
Options.
Yeah, options. I think it's going to be critical thinking, and I think it's going to be creativity. Like, how do we teach people to be more creative and use their brains in new ways? Because, ChatGPT can help with your creativity, but it's not going to do everything. I don't know, man.
It's tough. The other day I had I don't remember, it was like 3 years ago. 3 years ago, it was like, yeah, you know what? The future is coding. You have to get into coding. Future is coding. Is your kid coding? Does your kid understand what coding is? And it's like, oh my God. And now it's like, is the future coding? Is it
prompting?
Yeah, it's a probably profit. It's a probably like say, okay, so you already, you become how to become a better manager, how to become a better manager of information, or how do you figure out ways of sharing this information on the basis of accuracy and develop X. Is that the only skill you're going to be teaching the individual?
Yeah, I think what's really sort of telling is when we've had these breakthroughs before, a bunch of new jobs are created and these whole like ecosystems and economies that didn't exist before are created. And so we went from the horse to the car.
Yeah, and there's always that fight. That there's always
Yeah,
that
there's always that resistance.
like,
And then
that's what we talk about
right.
gas versus it's like, well, I want my motor to sound.
Yeah, and the Industrial Revolution, and then we moved, like we sort of farming became, something that you did at a bigger scale with less people, and so the people were like, "Oh, I'm gonna move to the city because that's where the jobs are," and then I'll go into construction, I'll build a skyscraper instead of farming, and then everything sort of evolved, and we had offices, and all these new jobs were created, and just people adapted. And sure, there were people that got screwed. Like let's being very, very transparent. There were people that got screwed, couldn't transition. They were just maybe too old at the time, or they were right in the middle of the whole thing and they couldn't do it. But I think most of societies moved forward. And I think AI is going to create a bunch of jobs. I know it sounds crazy to say that, but I actually believe this opens up like a number of new avenues to explore, from a lot more people becoming creators of things and developing things. And that power that maybe the Pixar team has now, or Lucasfilms back in the day, or these companies that if you wanted to make something like that, you needed a bunch of infrastructure and 10,000 people moving the arm of the character. But that's going to change, and some kid in the basement is going to produce an award-winning movie, and it's just what I mean. Like it's just going to be sort of a new wave of jobs and opportunities and things that can be created that we weren't able to create before, and it's all going to be led by AI. Is what I genuinely feel.
Yeah.